Now on H-Town Rush, blistering rain and whistling wind. Hurricane Laura roars ashore, one of the strongest storms to ever hit the Gulf Coast.
Laura made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane just over Cameron, Louisiana. Now racing northward. I'll have the latest on the path.
All we gotta do is hope. Hope.
Hope and pray.
Social media gave us a real-time look at what it looked like when Laura came on shore. I'm going to share some of the most powerful images from social media.
First at 6:30 from Port Arthur to Orange to Lake Charles and Lafayette, Louisiana. Hurricane Laura has whipped up dangerous winds, damaging buildings and knocking out power and flooding roads. And the further east you go, the worse it is right now. Hurricane Laura came ashore as a Category 4. That is a monster of a storm, as you know. But the good news for us here in Houston, it missed us completely, but our neighbors to the east weren't so lucky. There are countless videos on social media showing the damage in places like Lake Charles. And if you were here in Houston for Hurricane Ike, you'll recognize images like this that you're seeing right now. A skyscraper looking like Swiss cheese with its windows blown out. Now this morning we have live team coverage for you. Janelle Bluda is near Orange. Michelle Choi is on the Bolivar Peninsula, and Brandy is scouring social media looking for photos and video. But we start with meteorologist Cheetah Craft. Cheetah, where is Laura right now, and is she getting weaker?
Yes, we are continuing to see gradual weakening with Laura, and it is on the western and central fringe here in Louisiana. So it's impacting pretty much the entire state at this point. Want to give you some perspective, the scope here. Notice almost a clean line basically from Texas into Louisiana. So the impacts have been just unreal across portions of the coastline there for Louisiana and mainly southwest Louisiana that took the direct hit overnight just before 1 a.m. It made landfall near Cameron, Louisiana. Here locally, not so much. We've been tracking breezy winds and just a few light showers. Let's talk about where this is expected to go. So it's going to continue on a northerly track through Louisiana throughout the morning this morning. Notice how the center of circulation, that eye, is starting to close up. That's also a sign that it is starting to weaken. The latest track does have this weakening to a Cat 1, but not until about early afternoon. That means it's packing hurricane force winds, Cat 2 to Cat 1 strength through midday today. And then even as it lifts north of Louisiana, could be packing tropical storm force conditions through the night tonight. So still a lot to monitor with Laura, and we'll get those images right when sunrise comes up today. I'll send it back to you.
Looks like she's moving at a good clip there. Cheetah, thank you. The Golden Triangle was prepared for the worst of this storm, and while they avoided a direct hit, they did get blasted with wind and rain. Janelle Bluda is live in Orange this morning for us. And Janelle, the video you were showing us earlier, it looks like the damage there can be repaired. All right, it looks like we're having some audio issues. We will get back to Janelle Bluda live for us in Orange in just a minute, but we want to turn now to Michelle Choi, who continues our team coverage from High Island. Michelle, what's going on there?
Steph, TxDOT crews are hard at work this morning removing a whole bunch of rocks that littered Highway 87 here since last night, making this section of the highway impassable. But as you can see, you can no longer see those rocks. They've cleared it quite well over the last hour or so, but take a look at what this spot looked like earlier. You know, rocks and more rocks littering the highway after Laura's strong waves pushed them in, making it nearly impossible for drivers to drive through it safely. Now, authorities actually shut down the highway last night, which was an issue since this is the only road that connects folks living on Bolivar Peninsula to the mainland. But I'm told the highway's covered by these rocks 5 to 6 miles or so. So back out here live, you know, crews have a lot of work cut out for them, but it seems like they're getting through it pretty quickly. So I don't know exactly when the highway is going to be back open, but I believe it will happen sometime today. Guys, back to you.
Right now, social media is full of prayers for the people of Southeast Texas who are impacted by Laura, Prayers for folks who live in Louisiana and who are being hit hardest by this storm. It's reassuring to know that the rest of the world is kind of looking on as we're going through this, thinking of us, sending us those thoughts and prayers. And this is why. This gives you a really clear idea. Chris Cassidy's an astronaut on the space station right now. That is Laura filling the entire screen there. I wanted to show you this video. It is from Hurricane Tracker. He put a video in Cameron, Louisiana. That's where landfall was made. And it knocked, the storm surge knocked the camera out. We've talked about the power of storm surge, how it is just the storm pushing all of that water onto shore, and how dangerous it can be, how powerful it is. And that's just an indication right there. A look at some of the other conditions. This was in Lake Charles. This was before landfall. And at the time, they were experiencing about Cat 1 type winds, 70 miles an hour. But look at the power of that. That's what 70-mile-an-hour winds look like. This is a storm that packed winds of 150 miles an hour. It just blows your mind. Also in Lake Charles, Martin Savage here tweets that you can hear and feel the whole hotel shuddering with the rain coming in sideways, that wind blowing as well. Josh Morgerman's a hardcore hurricane tracker, so I would not recommend being out in the elements like he is, but he shared this video of explosions. He says you can hear whistling, and he's in Sulphur, which is really near Lake Charles. Finally, just going to leave you with this image of the storm as it made landfall in Cameron. Those thoughts and prayers right now definitely needed. We'll see what kind of damage it caused in the light of day. Back to you.
All right, Brandy, thank you. And speaking of damage, we want to go back to Janelle Bluta, who is live for us in Orange this morning. Janelle.
Yeah, Steph, sorry about that. So what I was trying to say is we've got some good news and some bad news out here. You know, the good news is the rain has officially stopped. The winds have died down. And as you can see, it doesn't look like from this point of view a lot of damage right here at this intersection at Highway 87 and I-10. We're in Orange. But the bad news is that it seems that the power outages are continuing to climb. We're now at just about 79,000 homes for these three counties. That's Hardin, Jefferson, and Orange counties. Now I want to give you a look at this intersection now as the sun starts to come up. We can start to get more of a clear view of what the damage is here in Orange. I just spoke to some emergency officials who actually just emerged from their own shelter here in Orange, and they're now headed to their own homes to see what the damage is like there. We've seen a lot more cars out on the road. People just trying to check out what happened overnight, what Laura did here. I do want to show you what it did look like here earlier this morning. This is driving down Highway 87. As you can see, very heavy rain and wind, very difficult driving conditions. Luckily, that intensity here is gone. It is very clear out here, but like I said, still thousands without power here in Orange, and we will bring you guys updates throughout the day on potential damage here, guys.
You know, and that's what we were originally thinking. This was going to be a wind and a storm surge event, and you can see all those power outages. In fact, that could have easily happened here locally, but because it did make landfall in Cameron, Louisiana, it has really spared most of Houston and Galveston of that. Now, this morning it is continuing that track and that race northward through Louisiana. So let's talk about our weather, what you can expect today. Notice you're waking up mostly dry this morning, a breezy start to the day, and that is about it. Live look outside. This is from our Weather Bug Network over Galveston, and you can still see a breezy start. We are still tracking this morning light rain across the area, but can you believe that is it? As a Cat 4 hurricane made landfall just 140 miles east of us, and we're talking about a breezy start to the day. It's really incredible how minimal the impacts are here locally. And that's it. The event's over for us, okay? Mid to low 90s this afternoon, about a 30 to a 40% chance for a few showers this afternoon, but it's basically just a late August forecast that's expected here locally. Now, coming up, we will talk about the impacts of Laura that's expected later tonight, and even as it works across the northeast part of the country. That's all coming up in about 5 minutes.
Okay, Cheetah, you're right about that. And in just a few minutes, we will talk more about Hurricane Laura. But for now, we do want to turn to some of the day's other big stories, starting with a false claim about mail-in voting. Federal officials say there's no evidence of foreign powers attempting to interfere with mail-in voting for this election. That undercuts President Trump's claims from earlier this summer amid fears over in-person voting in the pandemic. China accuses the U.S. of a naked act of provocation. Chinese officials say a U.S. Air Force spy plane flew into a no-fly zone during Chinese live-fire military exercises. Beijing then test-fired 2 missiles as a warning to the U.S. military. The CDC releases new coronavirus testing guidelines. Now the guidelines say getting tested, even if you've had close contact with someone with the virus, might not be necessary. Public health experts nationwide are questioning the change. Good news out of California. Fire officials say lower temperatures and weaker winds helped firefighters get a handle on the deadly wildfires. More than 600 wildfires have burned more than 1.25 million acres. A possible airline bailout on the horizon. White House officials say they might give relief to airline workers to keep them employed, but Congress will have to act. It comes after American Airlines said it will furlough 19,000 workers in October when bailout money runs out.